Welcome, everyone. Have you ever taken a step back to wonder, as you grow older, what truly brings fulfillment to life? In a world obsessed with wealth, status, and so-called success, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. Today, we're diving into real-life stories that can teach us invaluable lessons that will resonate whether you're young or approaching the later stages of life. These are the stories of ordinary people, each filled with wisdom on family, finances, and mental well-being. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer picture of what really contributes to happiness as we grow older, not just abstract ideas, but practical, transformative insights that could change the way you live today. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of these important life lessons. Your support means the world to me. If you find value in what we're discussing today, please like the video and share it with others who might benefit from it. I also want to hear from you, so drop a 1 in the comments if this topic resonates with you. If not, let me know by commenting 0, and feel free to tell me how I can make these videos better for you. Now, let's jump in. We're starting with the wisdom of solitude. Part 1, the wisdom of solitude. Have you ever felt the need to just be alone? To have that peaceful, uninterrupted space where you can think, reflect, or simply breathe without any outside pressures? As we grow older, many of us crave solitude more and more. This isn't about loneliness, it's about peace, about having time to be yourself without the noise of the world. And that's what we'll explore in this first part, how solitude plays a unique role as we age and why some people naturally drift toward quieter lives away from the crowd. Take, for instance, the story of Phi. Let's call him Old Phi. Phi, now in his 50s, is someone who has gradually embraced a quieter life. He finds contentment in simple pleasures, like staying home, taking leisurely walks, and, importantly, spending quality time with those closest to him. You see, Old Phi decided not to host gatherings at his home anymore. Instead, he prefers to meet friends in neutral spaces like restaurants. Some people, even some of his own relatives, find this strange, maybe even a little hurtful. Why have you become so distant, they ask. But for Phi, it's not about distancing himself out of coldness, it's about preserving his energy and embracing the peaceful rhythm that this stage of his life has brought. Imagine this, someone once so full of energy, always ready to entertain, slowly shifting to a more introspective lifestyle. It's something we can all relate to, in one way or another. Life is a series of phases, and each phase demands its own pace. Phi describes his current stage as one of peace and simplicity, one where he prefers the quiet joy of sipping tea, tending to his garden, and cherishing intimate moments with family over noisy parties or large gatherings. It's about choosing the life that feels right at this moment, and recognizing that it's okay if that looks different from what others expect. Then, we have the story of Uncle Chu, a man in his 60s who learned about solitude and personal space the hard way. Uncle Chu reconnected with an old high school friend, and the reunion brought him so much joy that he started visiting his friend's home regularly. At first, it was welcomed, but after some time, it became evident that his visits were starting to disrupt the household. This left Uncle Chu feeling confused and saddened, especially when he realized he had misread the signals. It's something many of us can relate to, the joy of reconnecting blinding us to the subtle cues that our presence might not be as welcome as we'd hoped. Uncle Chu's story is a poignant reminder that while our hearts may be full of good intentions, it's crucial to be mindful of how our actions affect others. Even when the door is open, sometimes that invitation isn't quite as unconditional as we might wish. And that's okay, it's part of understanding human relationships, especially as we grow older. Old Phi and Uncle Chu, two stories that share common threads of solitude, personal space, and the evolution of social interactions. These aren't just stories, but life lessons that urge us to be more mindful of how we approach relationships. They remind us that true connection isn't about quantity, how often we visit, how often we talk, but about quality, understanding when to step forward and when to step back. The wisdom of solitude isn't about isolation, it's about honoring the boundaries we and others set as we find our own rhythms in life. Let's take a moment to reflect here. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your enthusiasm for socializing wasn't matched by the other person? Or perhaps, have you ever longed for more solitude, only to feel guilty about not meeting others' expectations? If so, you're definitely not alone. It's part of the human experience, and as we grow older, it becomes increasingly important to listen to ourselves, to honor what we need, and to respect the boundaries of others as well. Uncle Chu's story also touches on something very human, our tendency to misinterpret social cues. He thought he was welcomed, that his visits brought joy, but in reality, it was a polite invitation that turned into an unspoken burden. This story invites us to practice empathy, to read the room, and to understand that personal space is sacred, especially as people grow older and their priorities change. Then there's Miss Kim, another character whose story helps illustrate the complexities of social interactions. Miss Kim loved to spend time with her neighbors and found great joy in their company. But even in the seemingly innocent gatherings, misunderstandings can arise. One day, during a casual chat about her daughter-in-law, she made an offhand comment, one that she didn't think much of. Yet, that comment got back to her daughter-in-law, but twisted and exaggerated, which led to a family dispute. Miss Kim's situation is a reminder of how easily our words can be misunderstood or taken out of context, especially within family circles. It's a lesson in mindfulness, that while casual conversations may seem harmless, they can have a ripple effect we don't anticipate. As we age, it's crucial to communicate carefully, to choose our words with empathy, and to consider how what we say might be interpreted by others. Living with her son and daughter-in-law, Miss Kim found herself feeling more and more isolated after this incident. She realized that sometimes, fewer words lead to fewer misunderstandings. She decided to limit her interactions, to enjoy dancing with her friends, and to find peace in her own company rather than getting caught up in neighborhood drama. It's a lesson in balance, knowing when to engage, when to step back, and how to preserve your own peace of mind. All these stories, from Old Phi, Uncle Chu, to Miss Kim, are reminders of the delicate balance in our social interactions as we grow older. They teach us to value solitude without guilt, to respect boundaries, and to communicate thoughtfully. True connection isn't about constant interaction but about meaningful, respectful exchanges. It's about knowing when to speak and when to simply be, when to reach out and when to let go. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had a moment where solitude brought you more joy than a bustling gathering? Or have you learned something valuable about setting boundaries with others as you've aged? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories might help someone else who's on a similar journey. And if you're enjoying these reflections, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more discussions like this. Your support helps us continue to share these valuable lessons. Now, let's move on to the next part, where we'll talk about the greatest asset one can have at the age of 50. Stay tuned, and remember, your journey is your own, embrace it. Part 2, the greatest asset at 50. Imagine reaching the age of 50. For some, this is a milestone that brings a sense of accomplishment. For others, it can be a time of introspection. By this point, many of us have established careers, raised families, and accumulated the material things that society often tells us are signs of success. But what if the most valuable assets at this stage of life aren't tangible at all? What if the true treasures aren't measured in dollars or things but in something much deeper, something that brings real peace and fulfillment? As we enter this new chapter, let's talk about what makes life truly meaningful after the age of 50. It's a time when priorities start to shift, and you begin to realize that the greatest asset you have is your well-being, which includes your health, family, financial stability, and mental peace. Let's dive into what these assets really mean and how they can make all the difference in this new phase of life. The first, and arguably the most important asset, is health. By the time we reach our 50s, the invincibility we felt in our youth starts to fade. Suddenly, our bodies aren't as forgiving of late nights, poor diets, or lack of exercise. It's in these moments that we realize that good health is priceless. It's not just about living longer, it's about living well, about being able to enjoy each day without being hindered by illness or pain. Take the story of Mrs. Tran, for example. In her younger years, she never thought much about her health. She skipped meals, rarely exercised, and lived a lifestyle that, frankly, most of us can relate to when we're busy with work and family. By the time she was 55, Mrs. Tran found herself struggling with her weight, high blood pressure, and constant fatigue. She was in and out of hospitals, relying on her 2 sons to help her manage her health issues. One day, while she was resting after another trip to the hospital, she overheard her eldest son expressing frustration. He spoke of how much time he spent caring for her, how it was affecting his own family and his work. It was a heartbreaking moment for Mrs. Tran, and it became the wake-up call she needed. She realized that her health wasn't just about her, it impacted everyone around her. Over the next 6 months, Mrs. Tran committed herself to change. She began to walk every morning, made healthier food choices, and took better care of her overall well-being. The transformation was incredible. She lost weight, her blood pressure stabilized, and she felt more energetic than she had in years. More importantly, she no longer felt like a burden to her family. Her sons were able to focus on their own lives without the constant worry of their mother's health. Mrs. Tran's story is a powerful reminder that taking care of our health is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves and our loved ones. The second asset is family. Family is the foundation upon which our lives are built. It's where we find love, support, and a sense of belonging. But as we age, family dynamics can change, and it's easy to take these relationships for granted, especially when everything seems to be going well. It's often in moments of crisis or hardship that we come to truly understand just how valuable our family is. Let me share with you the story of Mr. Liu. He was a successful businessman who worked tirelessly to provide for his family. He had a beautiful home, a supportive wife, and 2 wonderful children. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. But Mr. Liu made a mistake that many people make. He assumed that his financial success was all that mattered. He was so focused on providing material comfort for his family that he neglected the emotional connections that truly make a family strong. One day, Mr. Li's world came crashing down. He had been involved in an affair, something he thought he could keep secret. But secrets have a way of coming out, and when his wife found out, she was devastated. She left, taking their children with her. In that moment, Mr. Liu realized that all the money in the world couldn't buy back the trust and love he had lost. He was left alone in his big, empty house, with only his regrets to keep him company. Family is more than just a group of people living under the same roof. It's about trust, love, and respect. Mr. Li's story serves as a stark reminder that our relationships with our loved ones are far more valuable than any material possessions. They need to be nurtured, cherished, and protected. Without family, the successes we achieve in life can feel hollow and meaningless. Next, let's talk about financial stability. As we age, financial security becomes increasingly important. Not because we need more things, but because it gives us the freedom to live our lives without constant worry. It allows us to make choices based on what brings us joy and fulfillment rather than what we can afford. Financial stability means having the resources to take care of ourselves and not becoming a burden to others. Mrs. Tu's story is a great example of the importance of financial stability. Now in her 60s, Mrs. Tu had always been careful with her money. She saved diligently, made wise investments, and lived within her means. When she needed eye surgery, she didn't have to worry about the cost. She had the means to pay for it herself, which allowed her son to focus on providing emotional support rather than scrambling to find the money for her medical bills. Financial independence gave Mrs. Tu a sense of dignity. She was able to face her health challenges on her own terms, and her relationship with her son remained strong because it wasn't strained by financial stress. Her story is a reminder that while it's natural to want to provide for our children, we also need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. Ensuring that we have financial security as we age is not just about our well-being, it's also about protecting the relationships that matter most to us. The final, and perhaps most overlooked asset, is a positive mental state. Maintaining a positive outlook on life can be challenging, especially as we face the inevitable changes that come with aging. But a positive mental state is crucial for overall well-being. It helps us navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience. It allows us to find joy in the small moments and to appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, even on the hardest days. Mr. Hien is a wonderful example of someone who embodies a positive mental state. At 70 years old, he has faced more than his fair share of challenges. He lost his wife 5 years ago, and his children live far away, busy with their own lives. Despite these hardships, Mr. Hien wakes up every morning with a smile. He starts his day with gratitude, thankful for the roof over his head, the food on his table, and the memories of the love he shared with his late wife. He spends his days tending to his garden, reading, and volunteering at the local community center. For Mr. Hien, happiness isn't about what he has or what he's lost, it's about the choices he makes each day. He chooses to focus on the good, to be kind to others, and to find meaning in the simple things. His positive mental state has allowed him to live a life full of joy and purpose, despite the challenges he's faced. At 50, the greatest assets you can have aren't things you can buy. They're the relationships you nurture, the health you protect, the financial stability you build, and the positive mindset you cultivate. These are the things that will bring you peace and fulfillment as you enter this new chapter of life. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. What do you consider to be your greatest asset at this stage of your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding value in these reflections, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to share these important lessons. Now, let's move on to the next part, where we'll discuss the importance of financial stability as we continue this journey together. Part 3: Financial Stability. As we journey through life, one of the most significant lessons we learn is the importance of financial stability. When we're young, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of material things, thinking they are the ultimate goal. But as we grow older, we begin to realize that financial stability isn't about accumulating wealth, it's about the freedom and peace of mind that come from knowing that we're secure and can take care of ourselves and our loved ones. In this part, we'll dive deeper into why financial stability becomes a cornerstone of happiness and well-being as we age. For many people, financial stability means being able to make choices that are in line with their personal values and priorities rather than being dictated by financial constraints. It's the ability to live comfortably without the constant stress of wondering how to make ends meet, especially as we approach retirement or face unexpected challenges. Let's take a look at a story that embodies this lesson. Mrs. Lan is a widow in her late 60s. Her husband passed away 5 years ago, and since then, she has had to manage on her own. Thankfully, she and her late husband were prudent with their finances. They lived modestly, saved consistently, and never spent more than they earned. When her husband passed, Mrs. Lan was left with enough savings to continue her life without the looming threat of financial insecurity. She didn't have to sell her house or rely heavily on her children for support. Instead, she found herself with a sense of independence that made her grief easier to bear. Imagine being in her shoes. Losing the person you've shared your life with is devastating. The emotional toll is heavy enough without the added stress of financial instability. Because Mrs. Lan had been careful with money and planned for the future, she was able to maintain her lifestyle, keep her home, and focus on healing emotionally. This story shows us that having financial stability is not just about comfort, it's about preserving our dignity and independence, especially in times of great personal challenge. Now, let's consider a different perspective: those who, in their desire to provide for their children, sacrifice their own financial stability. It's a natural instinct to want to give our children the best of everything, to help them buy a house, pay for their education, or assist with their weddings. While these are admirable goals, they can sometimes leave us vulnerable in our later years if we give away too much too soon. Mr. Hung, a man in his 70s, found himself in this exact situation. He spent most of his life working hard to provide for his children. When his daughter got married, he gave her a significant portion of his savings to help her buy a house. A few years later, his son wanted to start a business, and Mr. Hung, not wanting to disappoint, gave him almost all of his remaining savings. He thought he was doing the right thing, that his children would be able to pay him back once they were established. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. the business failed, and Mr. Hung's daughter faced financial difficulties of her own. Now, Mr. Hung finds himself struggling to make ends meet. He lives on a small pension that barely covers his monthly expenses. His health is deteriorating, and he cannot afford the care he needs. His children, though grateful for the sacrifices he made, are unable to provide the support he desperately requires. Mr. Hung's story is a painful reminder of the importance of striking a balance between helping our children and securing our own future. The reality is that financial stability in old age is not just about taking care of yourself, it's about not becoming a burden to your loved ones. By maintaining your own financial independence, you allow your children to live their lives without the added pressure of having to support you. It also allows you to make decisions about your own care and lifestyle without compromising your dignity or relying on others to make those decisions for you. In our youth, it's easy to think of money in terms of what we can buy: cars, homes, vacations. But as we age, money becomes less about material possessions and more about security, freedom, and peace of mind. It's about being able to afford healthcare when you need it, about having a roof over your head without worrying about the next payment, and about being able to enjoy your golden years in comfort. Financial stability allows us to live with dignity and to face whatever challenges come our way with confidence. Another important aspect of financial stability is having a solid plan for retirement. Many people put off thinking about retirement, especially when they're young and have many other financial priorities. But the truth is, the earlier you start planning, the better off you'll be when the time comes to retire. Whether it's through savings, investments, or pensions, having a plan in place ensures that you can maintain your lifestyle and enjoy your later years without constant financial stress. Take Mr. Fook, for example. In his 40s, Mr. Fook made the decision to start contributing to a retirement fund. It wasn't easy. He had a family to support, a mortgage to pay, and plenty of other expenses. But he prioritized his future, knowing that one day he would want to retire comfortably. Now, in his 60s, Mr. Fook is reaping the benefits of those years of careful planning. He has a stable income from his pension, his mortgage is paid off, and he has enough savings to travel and enjoy life without constantly worrying about money. Financial planning isn't just about setting aside money, it's about making smart decisions with the resources you have. It's about understanding your priorities and being willing to make sacrifices today for a more secure tomorrow. Mr. Fook's story is a testament to the power of foresight and the peace that financial stability can bring in later life. It's also important to consider that financial stability isn't just about you, it's about setting an example for the next generation. When you make sound financial choices, you model responsible behavior for your children. You show them the importance of saving, of planning for the future, and of living within their means. This kind of financial wisdom is a gift that will benefit not only your children but also future generations. Let's take a moment to reflect. What does financial stability mean to you? Is it about having enough to enjoy your retirement comfortably, or is it about being able to support yourself without relying on others? Whatever your answer, the common thread is security and independence. Money isn't the key to happiness, but it certainly plays a critical role in our ability to live comfortably and without unnecessary stress, especially as we age. So, how can you ensure that you achieve financial stability as you grow older? Start by making a plan. Assess your current financial situation and determine what steps you need to take to secure your future. Consider speaking with a financial advisor if you're not sure where to start. Make saving a priority, even if it means making some sacrifices today. And remember, it's never too late to start planning for the future, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, or even 50s. Every step you take toward financial stability is a step toward a more secure and fulfilling life. If these stories resonate with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you taken steps to secure your financial future? What lessons have you learned about financial stability as you've grown older? Your experiences are valuable, and sharing them could help someone else on their journey. And if you're enjoying these reflections, please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future discussions. Your support allows us to continue sharing these important life lessons. Now, let's move on to the next part. where we'll talk about the importance of maintaining a positive mental state as we navigate the ups and downs of life. Part 4: Positive Mental State. A positive mental state is often one of the most underrated yet crucial assets we possess, especially as we reach the age of 50 and beyond. While physical health, financial security, and strong family ties are vital, the importance of a resilient and optimistic mindset cannot be overstated. Our mindset shapes how we perceive and react to life's inevitable ups and downs, and having a positive mental state can truly transform the quality of our lives as we age. By the time we reach 50, we've gathered countless experiences, both good and bad, that have shaped who we are today. Our experiences often come with a mix of triumphs and hardships. A positive mental state doesn't mean ignoring the struggles we face, but instead, it's about how we choose to interpret those challenges and how we allow them to shape our future. The way we respond to adversity can make all the difference between living a fulfilling life and one overshadowed by regrets and worries. Take Mr. Vin as an example. Mr. Vin, now in his 60s, experienced a series of challenges that could have easily left him feeling defeated. In his 50s, he lost his job due to downsizing. At the time, his whole identity revolved around his career, and the loss left him feeling worthless. He spent months battling negative thoughts, unsure of what to do next. But one day, Mr. Vin made a decision: he could either let the situation define him, or he could redefine his life on his own terms. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, Mr. Vin decided to focus on what he could control. He used his severance pay to start a small gardening business, something he had always been passionate about but never had time to pursue. At first, it was just a way to make ends meet, but soon, it became his source of joy and fulfillment. Working with plants, being outdoors, and seeing his efforts grow into something beautiful helped Mr. Vin reclaim his sense of purpose. Today, he runs a thriving local garden shop, and he couldn't be happier. Mr. Vin's story is a testament to the power of a positive mental state. Losing his job was a major blow, but by choosing to focus on the opportunities ahead instead of dwelling on the past, he was able to create a new chapter filled with purpose and contentment. It's a reminder that life after 50 can still be full of new beginnings, as long as we approach challenges with an open mind and a willingness to adapt. Another key aspect of maintaining a positive mental state is gratitude. It's easy to get caught up in what we lack or in the things that go wrong, but focusing on the positives in our lives can drastically change our outlook. Even small acts of gratitude, like taking a moment each day to appreciate a beautiful sunset, a cup of tea, or the company of a loved one, can create ripples of positivity that help us navigate life's difficulties with more grace and resilience. Consider Mrs. Tao, a 65-year-old widow who lives alone. After her husband passed away, Mrs. Tao struggled to find joy in her daily life. She felt a deep sense of loneliness and often found herself dwelling on what she had lost. But one day, she stumbled upon a journal that her late husband used to keep, a small book where he wrote down one thing he was grateful for every day. Inspired by this, Mrs. Tao decided to start her own gratitude journal. Each day, she wrote down one thing that made her smile, even if it was something as simple as a bird singing outside her window. Over time, this simple practice transformed Mrs. Tao's outlook on life. Instead of focusing on the emptiness that her husband's passing had left behind, she began to see the beauty in the little moments around her. Her gratitude journal became a source of comfort and strength, reminding her that there was still so much to be thankful for. Today, Mrs. Tao is an active member of her community, volunteering at the local library and spending time with neighbors. Her story is a powerful reminder that gratitude can turn even the most difficult times into opportunities for growth and positivity. Another crucial element of a positive mental state is staying connected. As we grow older, our social circles may shrink due to various life circumstances, people move away, relationships change, or loved ones pass on. While solitude can be peaceful, too much isolation can lead to loneliness and negatively impact our mental health. It's important to stay engaged, to reach out, and to nurture the connections we have. Mr. Bao is an excellent example of how staying connected can help maintain a positive mental state. Mr. Bao is 70 and lives alone, but he has made it a priority to stay active in his community. He volunteers at a local food bank and attends a weekly book club at the community center. These activities not only give him a sense of purpose but also allow him to meet new people and maintain a social network. Mr. Bao admits that there are days when he feels tired and prefers to stay home, but he always reminds himself of how much better he feels after spending time with others. The laughter, the stories shared, and the sense of belonging all contribute to his mental well-being. His active participation in the community gives him a sense of fulfillment and keeps his mind sharp. Mr. Bao's story illustrates the importance of social connections as we age. They keep us emotionally healthy, provide a support system, and remind us that we are not alone. Mindfulness is another practice that can greatly contribute to maintaining a positive mental state. Mindfulness is about living in the present moment, acknowledging our thoughts and emotions without judgment, and letting go of worries about the future or regrets about the past. It's about finding peace in the here and now, no matter what else is happening in our lives. Mrs. Lin, a retired teacher, found herself struggling with anxiety after she retired. She often worried about what the future held, whether her savings would be enough, whether her health would hold up, and whether her children would be able to care for her if something went wrong. The constant worry began to take a toll on her well-being, and she knew she needed to find a way to quiet her mind. Mrs. Lin began practicing mindfulness by incorporating meditation into her daily routine. Each morning, she would sit quietly for 10 minutes, focusing on her breath and letting her thoughts come and go without dwelling on them. This simple practice helped her feel more centered and less overwhelmed by her worries. Over time, she found herself worrying less about the future and feeling more at peace with the present. She started enjoying her retirement more, gardening, painting, and spending time with her grandchildren without the constant cloud of anxiety hanging over her. Acceptance is also a fundamental part of cultivating a positive mental state. As we age, there are things we simply cannot change. Our bodies may not be as strong as they once were, our roles in life may shift, and we may face losses that we never imagined. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up, it means acknowledging what is beyond our control and finding ways to make the most of what we have. Mr. Hong, an avid cyclist in his youth, found it increasingly difficult to ride as he got older. At first, he resisted the changes. He pushed himself to keep riding the same long distances, only to end up injured and frustrated. Eventually, Mr. Hong realized that his body was changing, and he needed to adapt. Instead of giving up cycling entirely, he started riding shorter distances and switched to a more comfortable, electric-assisted bike. By accepting his limitations and finding new ways to continue his passion, Mr. Hong was able to keep doing what he loved without risking his health. Acceptance allowed Mr. Hong to maintain a positive mental state and continue enjoying life, even if it looked a little different from before. It's a reminder that change is inevitable, but how we respond to those changes is what defines our experience. Maintaining a positive mental state as we grow older involves embracing gratitude, staying connected, practicing mindfulness, and accepting the things we cannot change. It's about finding joy in the small moments, nurturing meaningful relationships, and adapting to life's challenges with grace. A positive outlook can transform our experiences, allowing us to live fully and joyfully, no matter our age. If you're still watching and enjoying these reflections, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future discussions. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing these valuable lessons. Now, let's move on to the next part, where we'll explore the importance of independence and personal freedom as we navigate the later stages of life. Part 5: The Importance of Independence. As we grow older, the concept of independence takes on a deeper, more significant meaning. Independence isn't just about the ability to live without relying on others for physical or financial support, it's also about the freedom to make our own choices, to live in a way that aligns with our values, and to maintain a sense of purpose and control over our lives. In this part, we'll explore why independence is so important as we age and how we can cultivate and protect it. Independence in later life is often about maintaining our autonomy, our ability to make decisions about how we spend our time, where we live, and what we do each day. For many people, the fear of losing independence can be one of the biggest challenges of aging. It's natural to want to hold on to our ability to care for ourselves and to make our own decisions, even as our physical abilities change over time. But independence isn't just about being able to do everything on our own, it's also about having the freedom to decide how we want to live and who we want to be. Take Mrs. Hong, for example. Mrs. Hong is in her 70s, and she lives alone in the same house she and her late husband bought 40 years ago. For Mrs. Hong, staying in her home is a symbol of her independence. It's where she feels comfortable, where her memories are, and where she can live life on her own terms. Despite her children's concerns about her living alone, Mrs. Hong has taken steps to ensure she can safely stay in her home. She has installed safety features, such as grab bars in the bathroom and a medical alert system, and she has hired a part-time helper to assist with tasks that have become difficult for her. For Mrs. Hong, maintaining her independence is about more than just staying in her house, it's about preserving her identity. Her home is a reflection of her life, filled with memories, photographs, and mementos of the years she spent raising her family. By making small adaptations to her living environment, Mrs. Hong is able to continue living in the place she loves while ensuring her safety and well-being. Her story reminds us that independence often requires creativity and adaptation, but it's worth the effort to maintain the sense of control and freedom that is so essential to our happiness. Another aspect of independence is the ability to continue doing the things we love, even as we face the physical challenges that come with aging. Mr. Tuan, for instance, has always loved cycling. In his youth, he would spend hours riding his bike, exploring new places, and enjoying the freedom that came with the open road. As he aged, however, Mr. Tuan found that his body could no longer keep up with the long rides he once enjoyed. Instead of giving up cycling altogether, Mr. Tuan adapted. He invested in an electric-assisted bicycle that allowed him to continue riding without putting too much strain on his body. With his new bike, Mr. Tuan still enjoys his rides, albeit at a different pace. He may not be able to cover the same distances he once did, but he still finds joy in the activity that has always brought him so much happiness. For Mr. Tuan, independence is about adapting to the changes in his body while continuing to do the things that make him feel alive. His story is a powerful reminder that independence isn't about being able to do everything the same way we did when we were younger, it's about finding new ways to stay connected to the activities and passions that bring meaning to our lives. Financial independence is also a crucial part of maintaining autonomy as we age. As we discussed in an earlier part, having financial stability allows us to make choices based on what we want rather than being constrained by financial limitations. It's about having the means to take care of ourselves, to enjoy our lives, and to make decisions that are best for us without feeling like we have to rely on others. Financial independence gives us the freedom to live on our own terms, whether that means staying in our own home, traveling, or pursuing hobbies and interests that bring us joy. Mrs. Lan, a woman in her late 60s, embodies financial independence. She worked hard throughout her life, saved diligently, and planned carefully for her retirement. Because of her efforts, Mrs. Lan is able to live comfortably without worrying about money. She takes regular trips to visit her grandchildren, attends art classes at the local community center, and has the freedom to make her own choices about how she spends her time. For Mrs. Lan, financial independence means having the ability to live her life to the fullest, without feeling like she is a burden to her children or having to compromise on the things that bring her happiness. Independence is also about maintaining a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives. As we age, our roles may change, children grow up, careers come to an end, and the responsibilities that once defined us may no longer be there. It's during this time that finding new sources of purpose becomes crucial to maintaining our sense of independence. Whether it's through hobbies, volunteering, or learning new skills, having a reason to get up each day and feel productive is an essential part of living an independent life. Mr. Kwok found a renewed sense of purpose through volunteering. After retiring from his job as a schoolteacher, Mr. Kwok felt a deep sense of loss. He missed the routine, the students, and the sense of fulfillment that came from helping others learn. After some time, he decided to volunteer at a local community center, where he began teaching literacy classes for adults. This new role gave him a renewed sense of purpose. It allowed him to continue making a difference in people's lives and gave him the opportunity to stay engaged with his community. For Mr. Kwok, independence is about having the freedom to continue contributing to society in a meaningful way. His volunteer work not only benefits the people he teaches but also provides him with a sense of fulfillment and identity. It's a reminder that independence is not just about physical or financial autonomy, it's also about finding ways to stay engaged and connected, to continue learning, and to feel like we are making a positive impact in the world around us. Independence also means having the courage to ask for help when we need it. It may sound counterintuitive, but true independence comes from understanding our limitations and seeking support when necessary. Whether it's hiring help for household chores, reaching out to family, or using community resources, accepting assistance doesn't mean losing independence, it means making choices that allow us to continue living life on our terms. It's about being proactive in ensuring our well-being and knowing that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Take Mrs. Na, for instance. She lives alone and has always prided herself on being self-sufficient. But as she entered her late 70s, she started having difficulty with certain tasks around the house. Cleaning, cooking, and grocery shopping became increasingly challenging. At first, Mrs. Na resisted the idea of asking for help, fearing it would mean giving up her independence. Eventually, she realized that hiring a part-time helper would actually allow her to maintain her independence for longer, rather than struggling on her own. Now, with a little help, Mrs. Na is able to continue living in her own home and doing the things she loves, like tending to her garden and hosting her friends for tea. By accepting support, she has ensured that she can continue to live the life she wants without compromising her well-being. Her story highlights the importance of recognizing that independence doesn't mean doing everything alone, it means making choices that allow us to live our best lives, even if that includes accepting help along the way. In conclusion, independence is about more than just the ability to take care of ourselves physically or financially, it's about maintaining a sense of purpose, adapting to changes, making our own choices, and understanding that seeking help is sometimes the best way to preserve our autonomy. It's about living in a way that aligns with our values, staying connected to the things that bring us joy, and continuing to grow and contribute, no matter our age. If you're still watching, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what independence means to you. How do you maintain your independence, and what steps have you taken to ensure you can continue living life on your own terms? Share your experiences in the comments below, your stories might inspire others on their journey. And if you're enjoying these reflections, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on future discussions. Your support allows us to keep sharing these valuable lessons. Now, let's move on to the final part, where we'll explore the value of community and how staying connected with others can enrich our lives as we grow older. Part 6, The Value of Community. As we conclude this journey through the elements of a fulfilling life after 50, it's time to talk about one last but vital aspect, community. The importance of staying connected and involved with others cannot be emphasized enough. No matter how independent we may be, humans are inherently social creatures. We thrive on connections, shared experiences, and the support of those around us. In this part, we'll explore how community can enrich our lives as we grow older and why staying connected is crucial for our emotional and mental well-being. Community can mean different things to different people. For some, it might be a close-knit group of friends, for others, a neighborhood, a religious congregation, or even an online community of like-minded individuals. What's important is not the size of the community but the sense of belonging it provides. Being part of a community gives us the opportunity to share our experiences, celebrate our joys, and find support during difficult times. It's about knowing that there are people who care about us and who understand our journey. Take Mrs. Yen, for example. Mrs. Yen, now in her early 70s, moved to a new city after her husband passed away. She moved to be closer to her daughter and her grandchildren, but it wasn't easy to leave behind the friends and familiar places that had been her home for decades. At first, Mrs. Yen felt isolated. She missed her old community, and it was challenging to make new connections in an unfamiliar place. However, she knew that staying connected was important for her well-being, so she decided to join a local gardening club. Through the gardening club, Mrs. Yen found more than just a hobby, she found a community. She met people who shared her love of gardening, and soon, these weekly meetings became the highlight of her week. They exchanged tips, shared stories, and celebrated each other's successes. Over time, these strangers became friends, and Mrs. Yen began to feel like she was part of something again. Her story is a reminder that even when we face significant changes, finding and becoming part of a community can help us adapt and find joy in new beginnings. Another powerful aspect of community is the sense of purpose it provides. When we are part of a group, we feel like we belong, and we have something to contribute. This feeling of being needed is incredibly important as we age. It gives us a reason to get up in the morning, to stay active, and to keep our minds engaged. Whether it's through volunteering, joining a club, or participating in group activities, being involved in a community can bring meaning to our lives in ways that are deeply fulfilling. Mr. N, a retired mechanic, found his sense of purpose through his community. After retiring, Mr. N felt restless. He had spent most of his life working with his hands, and the sudden shift to a more sedentary lifestyle left him feeling empty. One day, he heard about a local program that repaired bicycles for children in need. Mr. N decided to volunteer, and it changed his life. He spent hours in the workshop, fixing up old bikes and making them as good as new. It wasn't just about the work, it was about the kids who would ride those bikes, the joy he saw on their faces, and the friendships he formed with the other volunteers. For Mr. N, being part of this community gave him a renewed sense of purpose. He was able to use his skills to make a difference, and the bonds he formed with his fellow volunteers became an essential part of his life. His story shows us that being part of a community isn't just about receiving support, it's also about giving back, sharing our skills, and making a positive impact on others. Emotional support is another key benefit of being part of a community. Life is full of ups and downs, and having people we can turn to during difficult times can make all the difference. As we grow older, we may face new challenges, loss of loved ones, health issues, or changes in our circumstances. Having a community to lean on can provide comfort, understanding, and the strength to keep moving forward. Mrs. Hong, an 80-year-old woman, experienced the value of community firsthand when she lost her husband of 55 years. The grief was overwhelming, and there were days when she felt like she couldn't go on. But Mrs. Hong was part of a close-knit neighborhood community, and her neighbors rallied around her. They brought her meals, spent time with her, and helped her with errands. Their kindness and presence helped Mrs. Hong navigate her grief and reminded her that she wasn't alone. Eventually, Mrs. Hong began to find joy again. She started attending community events, participating in group walks, and even hosting tea gatherings at her home. The support of her community helped her heal, and it gave her the strength to continue living a fulfilling life despite her loss. Her story is a testament to the power of community, the way it can lift us up during our darkest moments and remind us that we are never truly alone. The value of community also lies in the opportunity for growth it provides. It's easy to fall into routines as we age, but being part of a community encourages us to try new things, to learn, and to grow. Whether it's learning a new skill, exploring a new hobby, or simply meeting new people, community involvement keeps us engaged with the world around us and helps us stay mentally sharp. Mr. Tan, a retired accountant, found himself at a crossroads after retiring. He had spent most of his life working with numbers, and while he was proud of his career, he realized he had never pursued any hobbies outside of work. He decided to join a local art class at the community center, something completely outside of his comfort zone. At first, Mr. Tan was nervous. He had never painted before, and he worried that he wouldn't be good at it. But the supportive environment of the class made all the difference. The other participants encouraged him, and the instructor helped him develop his skills at his own pace. Over time, Mr. Tan discovered a passion for painting that he never knew he had. He even began displaying his work at local community events. For Mr. Tan, being part of the art class not only helped him discover a new passion but also gave him a sense of accomplishment and pride. It's a reminder that it's never too late to learn something new, and being part of a community can help us grow in ways we never imagined. Finally, community involvement helps combat loneliness, a common challenge many people face as they age. Loneliness can have a significant impact on both mental and physical health, but being part of a community can help alleviate those feelings. It provides opportunities for social interaction, for meaningful conversations, and for building relationships that bring joy and comfort to our lives. Mr. Long, an 82-year-old widower, found himself feeling increasingly lonely after his wife passed away. He rarely saw his children, who lived in different cities, and his days felt long and empty. One day, a neighbor invited him to join a weekly game night at the local community center. Reluctant at first, Mr. Long eventually decided to go. What he found was a group of people who welcomed him with open arms. The laughter, the friendly competition, and the shared stories became the highlight of his week. Now, Mr. Long is an active member of the community center, and he looks forward to the game nights, potlucks, and other events they organize. His loneliness has been replaced by a sense of belonging and connection. His story shows that it's never too late to find a community and that the simple act of showing up can open the door to new friendships and a richer, more fulfilling life. As we wrap up this journey, let's remember that community is a powerful force that can enrich our lives in countless ways. It gives us a sense of belonging, purpose, support, growth, and connection. It reminds us that no matter what challenges we face, we don't have to face them alone. Whether it's through volunteering, joining a club, participating in local events, or simply reaching out to a neighbor, being part of a community can bring immense joy and fulfillment to our lives. If you've made it this far, thank you for joining us on this exploration of the elements of a fulfilling life after 50. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How has being part of a community impacted your life? Do you have any experiences or stories you'd like to share? Please leave a comment below. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future discussions. Your support helps us continue sharing these valuable lessons and reaching more people who could benefit from them. Thank you for watching, and remember, whether it's through family, friends, or a local group, community is where we find strength, connection, and the true meaning of life.